Hi, everyone. For today's episode, I had the absolute pleasure of talking with my hilarious, bold, and endlessly evolving friend, Chelsea Handler. You probably know her as a comedian, author, and TV host. But beyond the laughs, she's someone who's done the deep personal work of growth and self-discovery. In our conversation, we get into her journey with therapy, her mission to uplift women, and how she's learning that strength isn't just about being tough. It's about being open. I hope you find something in our chat to connect to, and thanks for joining us on Reclaiming. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Audible. Love getting lost in heart-pounding stories? Audible delivers thrills of every kind. Discover what lies beyond the edge of your seat today. Sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/reclaiming. Thank you to our exclusive fashion partner, Reformation. I honestly can't tell you how many of their pieces have become my go-to favorites. Their sweaters have this incredible way of being both polished and comfortable. And in fact, when we recorded my own reclaiming story for the podcast, I was wearing the same Reformation sweater as the producer interviewing me, but thankfully we had the Clara on in different colors. Their clothes work for all moments in my life, whether it's a casual day out or a more formal occasion. I always find myself reaching for my Reformation pieces. Visit Reformation.com to see why they're one of my favorite brands for stylish and sustainable fashion. Hi.
Oh, hi, friend. I'm very honored to be here. I'm very happy about your success.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. You too on your new book.
This is my book that debuted as #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, so I'm so proud of it. I'm so happy, and it's a love letter to women.
And then you also have this new Netflix special, The Feeling,
which is great, which is also a love letter to women and some other people.
And some parts of your body.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's so funny because I want to talk about both of those, but I was thinking, I had this crazy experience 2 days ago, and I want to share it with you and then get your thoughts and advice and all sorts of things, which is, I had dinner with friends 2 nights ago after this thing happened, was telling them I came out of a store in a shopping area. I was picking something up, doing a bunch of returns, had a bunch of shopping bags, walk out of the store, and this like normal looking, attractive guy says, "Oh, looks like it's been a good shopping day." And I was like, "Oh yeah, it has." And then he said to me, "Well, what do you like to do when you're not shopping?" And I froze. And I started to panic, and I was like, oh, his phone, maybe he's TMZ. Then I was like, maybe he's a secret shopper, and he's just trying to ask people who are coming out of these stores what they're doing. And so I didn't answer, and we're walking, and I didn't answer. So finally he sort of laughs and says, "Well, maybe, yeah, I guess you don't really do anything." And I was like, no. And instead of waiting at the corner with him, I turned and went the opposite direction of where I was going. I was so panicked. I opened my phone camera, turn it around facing me to make sure he's not following me. This is like my level of whatever.
Yeah.
I tell my 2 girlfriends at dinner, and they start laughing at me because they're saying he was hitting on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no. And they're saying a secret shopper would not just be
First of
on
all,
the
who
street.
runs into secret shoppers?
Well,
That's not, I mean, I know that's a thing, but like the idea that that's what popped into your mind, that this might be a secret shopper.
TMZ or secret shopper.
Really, I know. I mean, that's like PTSD for sure. No, he sounds like he was interested and hitting on you. And you better open up. You better open your heart and mind to the possibility of meeting men like that.
Do you meet men like that?
Do I meet men like that? No, not really, but that's a way for people to meet men. It is, because if you got into a regular conversation and you were friendly, like, who cares if that was on TMZ? You're just saying hello to somebody. Who cares anyway? He's not catching you doing something.
Right.
You know, I mean, if you see a camera, yes, of course, then you're like, I'm out of here.
Right.
But you have to be more open-minded and not be living in such a fearful place.
Okay.
I would say that about everything in life. Like, we cannot live in fear because fear limits the possibilities of what can happen. Mm-hmm. You can't be an idiot and walking around with your head in the clouds, but don't always come from a place of fear. Come from a place of curiosity, is what I like to think.
So interesting. I mean, I also spent yesterday's therapy session talking about it because I was thinking too about just being like how closed I am about that. Why was my first reaction fear? And especially he was like a very attractive guy. My friends were joking we have to do a lost connections or whatever that thing is called in the paper. And I was
like, lost connections.
I know. Listen, handsome man on the street, if you're listening to my podcast. Well, it's interesting. So what you're just saying kind of makes me think about, there was one of the essays in your new book, I'll have what she's having, where you use this phrase that just resonated with me so much. And it was, quote unquote, cracked open. That you got cracked open. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think that could either be related to my therapist or to Joe Coy.
Oh.
Something. I can't
both. I mean,
both.
But I think,
in different ways.
I mean, the one I'm thinking about was really around your therapist and sort of this whole kind of emotional and spiritual journey that you've, I hate the word journey, but
I do too. But sometimes
not journey, but journey.
Where are we going to find a replacement word for journey is really the question of this.
That person should get a Nobel Prize.
It's the same person who came up with DocuSign should come up with something to replace the word journey, because whoever came up with DocuSign, I want to date that man, and it's probably a woman. So you know what I mean? Obviously,
right. Well, you could date her.
Yeah, I could. I mean, at some point, I will have to transition into a lesbian. I mean, it's just the writing is on the wall, and they're ready to welcome me with open arms. But yes, cracked open in a sense with regard to therapy. Absolutely, I felt cracked open. I felt like somebody. It was an egg that was, I was like a frozen egg almost in the tundra. And going to therapy with Dan Siegel was probably the best medicine I could have ever given myself to create the happiness in which I sit in today. Like, it took a long time. It was not attractive. It was not. I did not look forward to going to therapy 2 or 3 times a week for the 2 years that I went.
Good for you.
It was arduous, and it was not something I'd ever want to do again, but I treated it like I was getting my master's degree in psychology and myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to learn as much as I can. I'm going to take this all with me, and I'm going to be the best student that he's ever seen. Because I wasn't ever a good student. I barely graduated from high school. I did, but it was tricky. I wasn't interested.
Do you think you weren't stimulated enough?
No, I wasn't. I was rebellious, and I was an angry teenager. And I was mad at my father. I was mad at my brother who died. I was mad at everybody. And that I had no avenue to get rid of that pain. I didn't see a therapist, and I had all of this delayed grief, delayed anger that didn't really bubble up to the surface until I hit 40. And that's when everything kind of went sideways, and I was not myself. And I felt unsure of myself, and I felt insecure for the very first time in my life, like unsure of my footing. And so that was a scary time, and I had to reach out to someone because I didn't have the tools to get myself better. And what I discovered from going for 2 years was everything I needed to make my life better. And to get rid of any behavior that was hurtful to others or to myself, and to really have a more self-awareness about my actions, why I react certain ways, and to deal with the trauma of losing my brother. Like, I had never allowed myself to be vulnerable.
You were 9, right? When
9
Chet passed?
Yes. So when I say cracked open, it's like I would go into therapy, and I would be so like, he's not going to make me cry. Like, that was his agenda, you know what I mean? And which it kind of was, because you have to cry to get better. You
the
have
Barbara
to be,
Walters of
yeah. Well, a little different style.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if Barbara Walters was your therapist?
Well, my first interview ever was with her.
I know.
Yeah.
She's like, I remember being interviewed by her, and she's reading her. Like, she barely looks at you sometimes, and then she comes out with a zinger, and you're like, ah.
Well, and also the stack of cards, and you just go, oh God, this is like, what
an exam.
had. Exactly.
You're like, I'm taking an exam about myself.
Right.
She's like, Chelsea, do you hate your father? I'm like, well.
It's interesting because I got to chat with Beanie Feldstein recently, and she was talking about how she's become a counselor at this grief camp, and she lost her brother a handful of years ago. And so she was saying that what she learned at the camp was that when someone has experienced the death or loss, that instead of asking how they passed, to ask who the
Who they
person
were.
was.
Right.
And so who was your brother?
Oh, my brother was, thank you for asking that. I haven't spoken about him in a long time. So he was the oldest and I was the youngest, and we're 6 kids in our family. So we were like bookends. He would take me everywhere. We would drive to Martha's Vineyard every summer. We would drive to the ferry in Woods Hole and take the ferry over to Martha's Vineyard. And he would wrap me up, and I love cold air. I've always been a cold air person. I want the windows open.
Yeah,
I
sleep at night, freezing.
I want, if I'm in a hotel room, it has to be, air conditioning has to be blasting. I don't like stiff, I need circulation.
Yeah.
And so he would take me in his car. I forget what kind of car it was. It was like one of those 2-door, I want to say whatever.
Cool dude cars.
Yeah, it was like a cool dude car. And we would drive the 5 hours up to Martha's Vineyard, and he would wrap me up in these blankets and keep both of the windows down the whole drive.
Aww.
And then I would look over and he'd be like, it's freezing, it's freezing. But he was just, humoring me. And whenever we got to where we were going, like if we drove back from the vineyard, I always wanted to go with Chet. It was like me and Chet would drive together. And whenever we got back from the vineyard, we'd pull into our driveway in Livingston, New Jersey, and I would always pretend to be asleep. And he always knew that I was pretending to be asleep. Aww. So he'd pick me up out of the car and walk up our driveway, and he'd be like, she's pretending to be asleep. She's pretending to be, and then he put me down in my bed. Like, he took such care of me,
Right.
He was the oldest of our whole family, so we all looked up to him, and he was just perfect. In your mind, after you lose someone at that young age, obviously we canonize those people who are close to us, and that's how I felt about him. It felt like we lost our leader.
Did he feel, it sounds almost like what you're talking about are the sort of feelings you want to have with your dad, that paternal feeling of this sort of first man for you is safe and warm and all those things. And so did you have that relationship with your dad before and Chet, or Chet was like the main?
I had it with my whole family. Before Chet died, it was Chet was fun. He was he wasn't the parent. He was the older brother. Okay. So it was that dynamic was you could go to him. If I remember my brothers and sisters would go to him when they couldn't deal with my parents about something, and he would be the mediator. And he was a mechanic. He could fix things. And he was only 19 or 20 when I remember him just being in the garage all the time, fixing cars. My dad was a car dealer. So my brother was always kind of helping him out, but my brother would kind of roll his eyes at my father because my father was ridiculous, and my brother he was kind of like the cooler parental unit. Yeah. So yes, but my dad and I had a very loving, close relationship before before my brother died. When my brother died, my father really fell apart.
Okay. And so Chet, was that for your dad as well? Sort of
his firstborn,
right?
And I think the firstborn, the kid that makes you a parent, I think that has a huge, there's a huge connection there. It's your oldest is always you taught me how to parent. But so when he died, then that was pretty, obviously our world was upended. Yeah. And my dad never really recovered from that. To him, it was almost like ego. There was some ego part of it.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know if that's true. That's how it appeared. He just couldn't believe he lost his firstborn. That's my son. Right, who could take my son? I'm going to blame everyone I can and sue everybody. It was just nonsense. He couldn't get over the fact that he was gone and we needed to move on, and he had 5 other children, whereas my mother was understanding of, okay, now we have to focus on these 5 kids.
Yeah. Do you think any of his reaction had to do just the generational stuff of men not sort of being socialized to get in touch with their emotions, or that's just who he was?
He was very emotional. That was one of the things that I remember seeing him cry for the first time. I'd never seen, my dad was big and strong and very masculine, and I'd never seen him cry. And I remember sitting Shiva at our house after my brother passed away, and people were bringing over all this pastrami and roast beef and corned beef. And I just remember looking at all this disgusting food thinking, why do these people keep bringing us corned beef?
Because we're Jews.
I learned then that I was like, no, but we are Jews. That's why. But I just was like, this isn't commensurate with death. This doesn't make sense to me. I remember watching it all and all these people coming in. And then there was this scene with my dad on the sofa in our living room, and all of these strangers, our neighbors and other people were over, people I didn't really know well. And my dad was just bawling and crying and shaking. And I remember thinking, what are you doing? What are you doing? Pull yourself together. You're the father. Like, we just lost the brother. And now what are you doing? Like, I didn't understand that he was allowed to cry. Or, I was embarrassed. I was like, oh my God, now you're gone too? Like, to me, it felt like.
Oh, so it was scary to you as a kid. That was scary.
Yes.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
Destabilizing.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
Yeah.
I want to ask you something that just came up for me. And we're both women. I'm older than you, but we're now in our 50s. And you've sort of very confidently always talked about not wanting to have kids. And I've always wanted to have kids. And so it's like I've always admired your knowingness and being so comfortable. And if this feels too personal, you don't have
Nothing
to answer.
Is too personal for me.
But it just came up for me. Is there any part of you that thinks that maybe you decided to not have kids from watching with your brother passing, watching what that did to your parents and to your family, and that would be too painful to ever lose a kid?
I'm sure. I mean, I've thought about that subconsciously. I'm like, why am I so there? Why is there no wiggle room? Like, there's never been a serious consideration in my history of wanting to have children. Like, and I have thought about that. And perhaps that is true. I'm not sure, but I definitely would love to skip that pain. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting because for me, I tell myself, sometimes I will tell myself when I'm feeling sad about not having had kids that I'm like, well, what if I'm actually being protected? What if I would have had a child who died young? Or what if I would have, had a child who, had a child who caused a global disaster or something awful? Well, I had a scandal, but I mean, it's not the same thing. But the sort of stories I would tell myself is that maybe I'm being protected and I don't realize that. And so I hadn't thought about that in getting ready to talk to you. I hadn't made that connection at all. But hearing you talk about Chet.
I hear what you're saying, and it's a great question. I also want to say this about not having children when you want to have children. And there's a chapter in this book where I talk about my ex-boyfriend's daughters, who I became incredibly close with. And then there's a couple of other people's friends, daughters, sons too, children in my life. Aside from my 8 nieces and nephews who occupy a lot of my time, I have so much bandwidth because I don't have children to spread the love and the joy and the happiness. And I call them Poopsie, Whoopsie, and Oopsie in my book because obviously I have to protect them, they're children. But I've dated men who've had children, and I've been able to show up for them in ways that I probably wouldn't have been able to had I had my own family. I've been able to show up for other people's children in ways that I wouldn't be able to if I had my own family. So I feel like there is an unsung story about people who don't have children, whether it's by choice or by, circumstance, that there are so many opportunities to have children in your life, and you have to find those.
Yeah. Auntyhood is real. I mean, I was, I sort of felt like I always won the auntie game because I'm like, well, I have a niece and nephew. And I was like, well, I got car seats. And it actually was probably one of the best decisions in my life I've ever made because it allowed me, because they're young. And so it allowed me to have relationships with them on my own from a very early age. And I have a really special bond with them. But is it true that you took parenting classes?
Yes.
Yeah. So you fucking win. You're better auntie than me.
Well, no. I just wanted to understand the psychology of children to do a better job at whatever my role is. They call me father and dad, I mean, as a joke, but I'm always like, I could be a great stepfather. Coming in hot, you know what I mean? On the weekends, McDonald's, with Disneyland. I mean, no, I'm never going to Disneyland. Sorry,
what?
I take that back. No, I'm anti-Disneyland. Don't get me started.
Oh my God.
I don't want to infect you with my negativity about that.
You cannot. I am impenetrable when it comes to negativity.
Then you
about
sit
Disney.
there and I'm going to sit here.
Okay.
But I like come in with all the fun stuff, on the weekends, spoil them, take them shopping, watch their stupid TikToks that they want me to watch, get interested in whatever they're on. If they're on the floor, I'm on the floor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they want to ski, I want to ski, whatever. like learning about like taking these parenting classes because one of the kids became pretty obstinate and difficult, and they were having a really kind of fractious relationship with both of their parents, that I was like, something's not working here. Like, I want to learn how to handle them. And I took, and what I learned about that and how you deal with children who are rebellious and angry, and is that you're there. You just remain there. Like, you can't threaten them. You don't yell at them. You meet them where they are and remind them how loved they are and that you're not going anywhere. It doesn't matter how bad the behavior gets, you're still going to be there.
Yeah.
And you're going to be there to guide them. And when they want to calm down, you're still going to be there. And to just love them up. Like, every kid needs to be loved. So, and I know that from my own childhood. You know, I had a huge, loud, raucous family, and it was crazy and fun and heartbreaking and all of those things. But I was never short on being loved. But I was neglected in many ways. Like, my parents would forget to pick me up from school. I would walk home. I'd be like, hello, guys. I'd walk in and my dad be in the kitchen reading the paper. I'm like, hey, asshole, I was just fucking waiting at Hebrew school for 3 hours. Were you going to get me? Because you think I want to go to Hebrew school? I don't, actually. So if you're not going to pick me up, I'm definitely not going. And my dad would be like, oh my God, this one is wild. You know, my dad thought I was crazy. But I did have a teacher in third grade, Mrs. Sheckman, who instilled in me so that I was so valuable, that I was going to do something special, and that I was going to be someone that people came to for. I don't know how she put it, but she was like, "You're going to impact the world. Like, you're going to have an impact." She's like, "Just stay the course." Like, when I started to get really rebellious, she's like, just stay. And I didn't really listen. I heard her, but I didn't take it with me. Now it's with me every day because I want to be that for any kid that doesn't feel seen or that feels neglected.
Yeah.
You know, you just need one adult to believe in you.
100%. What do you think Mrs. Sheckman saw in you at that young age?
I think she was around me right when my brother died. And I think she saw my family kind of fall into disrepair. Like, we kind of all retreated to our own corners of grief. No one was helping each other with the grief. And I think she saw that I was like, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry about my brother. Like, once I saw everyone crying, I was like, whoa. Our whole family is about to fall apart. Like, we got to step it up. I was like, if they're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. I'll be strong. So I was like this for 30 years, like this, whenever my brother's name came up. I would not cry with anybody. If I came home and my parents were crying in the kitchen, I would walk out the door and get on my bicycle. And she knew, like, that I didn't have a process for the grief. She knew to help me and to guide me. She would even take me to her house on the weekends with her and her husband, which would sound fishy today, but it wasn't.
Right.
It was wholesome. And she would take me out of my house. She's like, you come with us for the weekend. Because she knew, like, what was happening at the house.
Yeah.
And so
I'm like feeling so much for little Chelsea right now.
Me too. I mean, I'm getting so emotional talking about it because she did me such a service. And she died last year in Florida. But I've seen her. I mean, I would keep in touch with her over the years. She'd call me. She'd come to see my shows. She'd be like, I'm so proud of you. Like, look what you've accomplished.
Yeah.
You know, like, and so it was a relationship that lasted, but impacted me in a great way. Because sometimes you don't take the lesson when it's happening.
Yeah.
You take it later. And so all she had to do was show up for me, and that was enough for later in her life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's interesting how I think strangers, I mean, even though she wasn't a stranger, but someone outside your family who believes in you has a different weight.
Yes.
I think than what can happen. And I think in a really weird way, that was some of what I needed in DC that I got in very wrong and fucked up ways. But I think that was, I had said to someone once that I think Bill saw something in me that I hadn't seen yet in myself. And I saw something in him that he thought was long forgotten. And so it's, I think those things can be, they just, and going back to what you were saying before in that way of not raising kids, but being in kids' lives. is that it is so impactful.
It's not only impactful. I mean, first of all, kids first and foremost, we have to take care of them so that they grow up with confidence and they believe in themselves.
Yeah.
But it's also for when I wrote this book, I'm like, what is my agenda here? Like, I have to have an intention. And for years, people have been asking me about my confidence or my fearlessness. People have this assumption that I don't give a shit about anything and that I do whatever I want, whenever I want. And it's like, I wish I were that way. I'm not that way, but I do now understand that I do have a dose of something that I would like to inject in other women. I want people to feel like I want to take the Ozempic needle and be like, this is actually confidence for everybody and just start shooting everybody up. Because I do feel like even we deal with a lot of adult women who lack confidence.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. I want everyone to feel the way that I feel, which is free to express myself and to live in a more unapologetic way. So like when I was thinking of the stories to share, like the children's stories I was like, oh, nobody knows this about me. Like I've never shared this publicly. This is actually something that's so warm-hearted and beautiful. And it's also a demonstration of how we can, when we are child-free and not just for children, but how we can impact other people's lives. It's like, who's impacted your life in the biggest ways and whose lives have you impacted?
Thanks so much to Audible, our presenting sponsor. Are you looking for your next big thrill? Audible's got you covered with all kinds of adventure right at your fingertips. Whether you're into heart-racing mysteries, epic quests, or fantasy, they've got stories that'll keep you hooked. You'll love diving into gripping titles that keep you guessing until the final moment. Experience exclusive, captivating Audible originals you won't find anywhere else. Want to know what everyone will be talking about before they're talking about it? Be the first to hear anticipated new releases and discover must-listen bestsellers that will grab your attention. Discover what lies beyond the edge of your seat on Audible. Start your adventure today. Sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/reclaiming. That's audible.com/reclaiming. Thanks so much to our sponsor, Reformation. I want to take a second to talk about one of my favorite clothing brands, Reformation. You've probably seen Reformation on Instagram or at a wedding. They make the best guesting dresses. But if you're like me, you may have thought that's all they do. Well, you're in for a pleasant surprise. Last year, they worked with yours truly and Vote.org on a campaign to empower voters to take part in the democratic process and show off their workwear. From doing the campaign and getting to know the brand even better, I love their sweaters, blouses, workwear, shoes, and bags. But most important, I love how confident I feel in their stuff. Plus, it really holds up since they make everything with super high-quality, sustainable materials. Reformation is also a brand that uses their growing platform to do good in the world, and especially in the sustainable fashion space. As they say, being naked is the #1 most sustainable option. Reformation is #2. If you're looking for clothes you want to feel great in and feel better about, head to reformation.com. It's interesting because I have a friend who, she has 3 kids. A lot of my friends have 3 kids.
Yeah.
But Sandra has said to me before when I've sort of lamented, I don't know, Mother's Day comes around and I'm so lucky that my mom's still here and my stepmom. And so just kind of being able to do that. And at the same time, it can be hard. And she said to me once, she said, but do you realize how many people in your life that you mother? And I hadn't thought about it that way, that I am very nurturing. I mean, I'm a little codependent too, but there's the nurturing there. And I do truly care in that sense. And so it's the same thing of kind of what you're saying of whether you're, and I think this is more to adults is what she's talking about rather than with kids.
Yes, and it's like a maternal instinct. Like just because we're not mothers doesn't mean we don't have that maternal instinct. It doesn't work that way. We're women, so we're empathic just by nature of who we are.
Yeah.
And we want to help. Like I want to help people when they're down. I want to go, come on, I'm going to pick you up. Come with me. Like I'll show you the way, and I can be pretty aggressive with that too. Sometimes, sometimes people are like, I don't want your help. And I'm like, all right, well, good luck with everything then.
Do you have friends who are like that with you too? Do you let that in?
No. I mean, I'm pretty I have a ton of people that work with me that take care of me in a in a sense. I mean, I really feel like this is the first time in my life where my whole team is just so co-aligned in a professional and personal level. Like everyone who's works with me. I mean, I guess it's more professional, but it's everything I do is personal anyway.
Right.
So the professional is personal. I don't have boundaries or lines crossed, like between my publicity team, my managers, my agents, and the people that work with me in my home and organize my life, like I feel so cared for.
Yeah. Everything's in alignment.
Yes. Like if I need something, I can ask for something, but it's not easy for me to ask for help. No.
Yeah. Me either.
I'm like, I can do anything. That's my superpower. I can handle what most people can't in one day.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds a bit like you kind of were like that as a kid too.
Yeah. But the truth of the matter is nobody can handle that. And you are going to break down if you try to handle everything that's unreasonable. You know, if you put you're piling on and you're piling on and you're piling on, you're going to break down. And of course I have those moments too. But yes, I feel very independent in the fact that I'm so strong. Like I'll deal with it. I can handle this, that kind of vibe.
Was that, I imagine part of the cracking open was sort of sitting with that or trying to let people help more in. Was that hard for you, or did you just? I mean,
there's this experience with Dan Siegel. There was one day where he wanted to talk about, he kept asking about my brother, and I was like, that's not what this is about. Like, let's talk about, I have a short temper. I have no patience. Everyone annoys me. Let's talk about that.
I love you.
And he was like, okay, well, we need to get a little deeper. And I'm like, no, these are just newer problems. Like I'm hitting a crescendo where like I'm blasting off on people for no reason. And he couldn't get me to cry. He couldn't. I just would be like steely. And I would come close. And then one day he handed me an orange. He walked in his office and he's like, oh, and we were in a different office that day. So it was a little bit out of, I was, and we were sitting at a table instead of in two chairs. And he walked in and he handed me an orange. And he goes, I grabbed this from my tree. I thought you might want an orange. And I immediately just was like, and everything came up, all of it. And because he had done something so nice, like an orange to me is like the best memory I have of my childhood is orange juice and oranges. Like I love oranges. And it was cold. Like he knew that I think he had refrigerated it or something.
Oh my gosh.
So it was like all the nice things a man could do to you or do for you. Not do to you. And he handed it to me and that's when I just broke down. And as I was peeling it, I was like trying to hide my face with the orange peels. I was like, oh God, here I go. I'm like, oh my God, I'm losing my shit right now. And tears are coming down my face. And he's just sitting back like, finally. Like, okay, we can't fix you until you break down. You know what I mean? And that's what you learn about children too. That's what I learned in my parenting class. Even when someone's obstinate and they're rebellious, if they can still cry, they're still vulnerable and you can still get to them.
Wow. That's
important to remember with like.
That's really interesting. Wait, say that again. That's really interesting.
If you can, like, if a girl's really rebellious and she's a bitch every night when she gets home and she's hormonal and she's going through puberty and she's mean to her mother and she's mean to her father, she's not gone if she can still cry, if she can still be vulnerable. And this goes for boys too, but obviously I have more women in my life. As long as you can get to them, if someone can break down, then you have access to try to heal them.
Wow. I've never heard that, never thought about that. I mean, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Did Dan plan the different room and the orange, trying to see if just
I'm sure there was something
or
in
maybe
it.
intuitively without even it being conscious.
Yeah, I mean, he's a professional, so I'm sure he knew what he was dealing with.
Yeah,
because I went in there like I was like, oh, I can talk to him about the brain and how the brain works, and it was very linear and intellectual, and I was very interested in those kinds of conversations because I was learning so much about the human brain and how we behave, and so I was kind of like almost like an abstract way of I needed the help, but I couldn't admit that I needed that help. So I just kind of went in under the subterfuge that I needed to learn about the human brain. And he had been a guest star, like he had come on my Netflix show. We had done some like studies in the field with like talking about child adolescence. He specializes in adolescence, which is exactly where I was stuck. I was still a 9-year-old girl in many ways because when our trauma happens, I'm sure as you well know, we can remain that age until we unearth our trauma.
Yeah.
So like I was a 9-year-old girl in relationships with men until I was 40 years old and understood that I had been behaving like a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
Because I thought everyone was going to abandon me and everyone was going to leave me because my brother died and he told me he was coming right back. And then my father basically, he didn't die, but he died a little bit. And he
disappeared.
Yeah. So it was the first 2 most important men in my life disappointed me. So from then on, I was like, oh, men are not to be trusted.
Yeah. Do you have a relationship with your dad now?
He's dead now.
Okay.
Yeah. But we repaired our relationship. Okay. And not through therapy or anything, just time. And I had to move away from my family to fall in love with them. We just needed a break, Yeah. So when I moved to California, I was 19 years old. And that's when I really started to I'm like, oh, I miss my parents. I love my parents.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I think, or at least I've experienced that you kind of get to a certain age where I guess you feel comfortable enough with yourself as an adult, and you're able to see your parents in ways that you kind of go, oh, I actually, as an adult, I appreciate these qualities about my parent, and I cherish them in a different way, where I enjoy spending time with them in different ways than when I was younger. Yeah. I kind of be like, I don't want to have dinner with you or lunch with you. I think it was more my own issue of kind of, am I a loser that I'm having dinner with my mom on a Friday night, or something, some version of that.
Right.
And instead you kind of get to go, oh, actually, when you're not trying to use your intellect to always tell me what to do, you're pretty fucking smart.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I remember going home to the vineyard. We'd go there in the summer times after I had moved to California when I was 19, and I would go home, and my parents used to get up super early, which is what I do now. I'm just like them. And they'd get up super early and they'd go into Edgartown and they'd have breakfast alone. And when you're one of 6, you don't ever have breakfast with your family, like your parents. You never are alone with your parents. There's always more kids.
Yeah.
So the idea, and I remember getting up one morning early with them and going into town with them, and it was quiet, and my dad and I were walking down the street holding hands. I was 22 years old, and my mom was there with us, probably holding my father's other hand or my hand. And we went to this little restaurant in Edgartown. And I remember having breakfast with them. And I was the beginning of, oh, it's so nice to be alone with my parents.
Yeah.
I had never had that experience because we were a tribe.
Yeah.
So there were always so many kids. And then it became our thing. My dad would come up to my bedroom every morning and go, come on, we're going to breakfast. And it would just be the 3 of us.
Wow. So I'm the oldest of 2. So, my experience is almost the opposite, which is I got all the attention, and then, my fucking brother came. Although I was so excited, I was insistent that he'll probably kill me for saying this, but, I was insistent that we call him JoJo, and I made a welcome home JoJo sign. His name is Michael. And so it was I welcome home JoJo from the hospital. I called him JoJo for, a while when he was younger.
That's funny.
It was, but it was that sense of, and then I dressed him. I would cut his, poor guy. I should pay for his therapy. So,
we're all going to get therapy anyway. You might as well get it out of the way that way.
Yeah.
That sounds quite innocent. better than
I
other.
don't know. Me with some shears, I'm not very good. So.
Yeah.
But it's, it's just, it's so interesting for me right now to just be hearing this aspect of you. I got so much from your book and your earlier books. You've written a lot of books. Is it 5 or 9?
7.
7.
Okay,
books. In between 5 and 9.
7.
7. That's impressive.
I can't believe it. Believe me. I'm like, what?
So last year, I came to see you at the YouTube theater. We didn't get to see each other after your set, but I came with Maria and Suzanne. And so I was like, oh, is part of what we saw in your new special, The Feeling. And so where I'm getting at is you tell this amazing story about how you started a business. We were like, I don't know, just out of the womb, basically.
Yeah.
And you were this young entrepreneur at what, 9, I think? 8 or 9?
I started working when I was 8.
Yeah.
I opened up a lemonade stand. That didn't yield enough of a profit margin. So I opened up a hard lemonade stand. And so I started, I hired, my sister was against us serving alcohol. And I was like, well, then you're fired. So I went around the neighborhood. I found another little kid that I could dupe. And I was like, come on, Nelson, come with me. I'm going to teach you how to make a drink. Actually, you figure it out because I don't know either. And we're going to sell gin, whiskey, tequila with the lemonade to the adults. And if anybody's over 10, obviously we had some guidelines. And we made money. I was 8 years old. We made hundreds of dollars in the first week. I did it for like 4 weeks. And then I was like, the next summer, I think I did that one summer fully. Then the next summer I was like, I got to make more money. And then I was like, okay, I think by the time I was 10, I started babysitting. And I lied and said I was 15 because I looked like I've always looked older. Finally, now at 50, I'm starting. My sister goes, it will even out as you get older. You'll start to look younger. And I'm like, when? When I was 20, I looked like I was 30. When I was 30, I looked like I was 40. Now that I'm 50, I agree. I look great.
Yeah, you do.
It took me this long to get back to the, you know what I mean, to catch up with my age. I mean, I'm a 50-year-old woman, and so, but I feel great about the way I look finally in my life. And that's not to say I didn't before, but I feel permanently good. Do you know what I mean? Like
you feel so good that you've skied naked.
Yes.
So, I mean,
that's with a bikini on. It's not quite naked, but I don't ski with my beaver out. No.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's the story.
Yes, I know. But there's always something covering my nipples.
Okay.
Hopefully. I think so. Maybe once or twice there wasn't. But yes, now my nephews asked me to please keep my breasts covered. And I said, you know what, guys? This is exactly why I didn't have children. So I don't have any guardrails around me. But I did want to respect that their friends at college were commenting on their naked aunt. Topless aunt, I should say. I was like, at least I didn't bring out my Pikachu. They're like, God, stop it. No one wants to see that. I was like, a lot of people want to see it.
Yeah. So that's incredible that you were with your business that early. So,
and then I babysat for kids at 10 years old when I was lying, saying I was 15. I babysat for a 14-year-old kid for the entire summer. I mean, I'm not joking. I was up to all sorts of shenanigans, and I was like accruing all this money. I was making money, and I had this cigar box of money. I would go home every night. I would smell the money. I would count it. I would put the 20s in one stack, and I would stack it up like a banker. And I would be like, okay, and then I would seal it shut because I was scared my used car dealer father would want in on it. And I was like, nobody's taking my money. I'm a businesswoman, and I was 10 years old. But I was born that way. You know, I opened my book with this letter from my little girl self about who is the woman that I want to be. Like, who did I dream about becoming? I wanted to be someone who was strong, who would stand up for things, who would talk about, you know, would have the difficult conversations. Somebody who lived freely, you know, and bravely, and was and stood up for things that mattered, you know, and wasn't a follower. I wanted to be a leader. And I think and just by writing that, I realized, like, I got so in touch with, and this is, you know, this overlaps in my special and my book, my childhood, because I think it's so important for us to remember who we were before the world, you know, shit on us, before we got our hearts broken, before we were humiliated, before we understood what jealousy was, before all of that, who is the essence of who we are. Yeah. And make sure you bring that little girl with you in every way throughout your life.
I did a TED Talk almost a decade ago. And when I was trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to say? One of the ideas I had was around this sort of thing of childhood photos. And I was trying this idea out on people. And my friend's husband told the story of how his mom's therapist had said to her, you know, go home and find a photo of you from before you were broken. And there was something about that just like resonated so deeply. And I feel like we can see it in these. And in fact, you'll have to send me one because I keep this, I have a folder on my phone that I have photos of my friends, of kids from before they were broken, of this idea of like, and every so often I just
love that.
send some energy.
Yes.
Because there is that, and you can just, you can see it. You can see the kind of the effervescence in a little child, and it's an amazing thing to sort of think about who we were. How do we find that again? I mean, that's so much of what the show is about, with reclaiming of just in my own self, of trying to find those moments of joy, right?
Yeah,
that when you were a kid.
It's also like no one can take that from you.
Yeah.
When you're in touch with who you really are, and you're not worried about impressing people or showing or demonstrating who you are. When you really sit with yourself and think, who am I? What is my purpose here? What am I doing here? And how do I get closer to my real self?
Yeah.
Because we all obviously fall off the track. I have many times, and it's up to us to get back on that track. And a reminder of where we began is really truly the essence of us. And I like, the more I talk to people about the book, the special, everything, it just keeps coming up. Like there's so many times in life where we just forget to even check in with that little person.
Oh yeah. I've been trying to do so much work over the last many years around that, of just trying to, I think just even trying to recognize she's in the room, little Wonka. So,
well, I think your story is so inspiring because you are so grounded, normal, and went through something that is unimaginable to 99.9% of people, that level of scrutiny and embarrassment, probably.
Yeah.
And the fact that you are on your feet and that you're healthy, happy, and you're living a beautiful life, is very, very much a testament to who you really are.
Thanks. It's not always easy.
I know.
Being inside my skin and my brain. But
yeah, I can only imagine.
Easy to be in my heart.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
That's
I've never thought about that.
Wow.
I've never thought about that before. I'll think, oh God, in my head and the overthinking, or in my body, and I'm disconnected. But it is very easy to be in my heart. Is it easy for you? I think it's easy for you to be in your heart too.
Yeah,
right?
My heart is front and center. I'm a mess.
I could talk to you for hours, and I want to be mindful and respect your time boundary. Before I get to our very last question, I just wanted to mention that I learned this last night. One of my producers mentioned to me that in this LA Times article that it was saying that your residency in Las Vegas at the Cosmopolitan, right? That you are the first female comedian to have a residency there?
Yes.
That's fucking amazing.
Thank you. At the Cosmos.
Yeah.
The theater's called Chelsea. So it's Chelsea at the Chelsea. So I'm performing inside myself, which is a dream come true. How many people get to say that? No one. Unless another Chelsea comes along and takes my residency.
No, they just can't allow it.
It's been a blast there. Yes, I want everyone to come see me in Vegas. We have such a blast you have to come one weekend.
I was like,
you'll fly out with me.
Okay,
I know.
I hate Vegas.
No, we go. It's a 12-hour turnaround.
Okay, fine.
We literally go to dinner, go to my show. My show's at 8.
Okay,
I do it once a month, and then we go gamble. We always use my money. No one has to use any of their own money, and then we leave at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, I'm there.
So we'll put a nice group together, and we'll make it a happy experience.
I will do that. That would be fun.
Yeah.
And especially just to come support you that way too.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I like to ask people at the end, is there something that you are working on reclaiming? It could be an emotion, a thing, it could be anything. A really elastic definition.
Oh, okay. I like that. What am I working on reclaiming? I think the most important thing that I've had in my whole life is the ability to lose myself in books and read books, right? And escape through books. I just bought a bunch of big books.
Okay.
And I want to reclaim reading. I've always read my whole life. My father forced me to read when I was a little girl because he knew I was going to be trouble. So he's like, here, go in the corner and read Tolstoy. When I was 8, I had to read Tolstoy.
8?
Yeah. And write and give an oral book report in the kitchen. So it's not that I've lost it. I've just been so busy with everything that I haven't really sunken into a book where I've forgotten where I was.
Yeah.
And I've read for 2 hours straight. That hasn't happened in a couple months. So what I am going to reclaim in the next couple weeks is that private time alone at night without the TV with my books. I want my books back.
I'm so jealous.
Yes.
That sounds divine.
I need to get back in the habit of getting into bed and reading rather than just turning on nonsense and not caring about what I'm watching. You know what I mean? To fall asleep.
You know what? I purposefully don't have a TV in my bedroom.
Yes, I don't like that plan. No, because I have days where I get up and I'm like, today's a TV day. And I get back into bed, I get up, have great breakfast, bring it into my bed. And I'm like, today is a TV day. And all I do is lie in bed and watch TV. So I will never not have a TV in my bedroom.
You could have a special bedroom with a TV
in it.
That's
not my own bedroom.
Right. And then not, because it does, I read every night before bed. I mean,
good
like
for you.
Regency or a romance novel. So it's not, I mean, it's like watching, a Bravo show, but it does mean I sort of wind down in a way. And it does mean my bedroom feels like it's all sort of salmony pink. So it's like a fucking cocoon in there.
Yeah. But it needs to be, I want that sanctuary. I want that feeling of, I want to go to bed with a book every night.
Yeah.
And I'm going to reclaim that.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for coming to do this.
Oh my
This
God,
meant so much. I was so nervous and excited, but nearsighted. But I'm so happy for all these successes that are out there right now.
Likewise. I'm happy for your success. And I'm so happy to know you now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
And we'll get you skiing in Whistler. We'll get you to Mallorca.
All of it. And Vegas. And all the things.
Oh, all the things. I love it.
Chelsea.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you. Thanks so much.